All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new. Thank you guys so much for joining me today once again and for waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up there. I hope everybody is doing well on this Monday. We do have a few different PlayStation-related topics that we're going to go over in depth today and discuss extensively. Actually, one of the topics is about GTA 6 once again, specifically a report that talks about this game potentially being $100. Yes, that's right. GTA 6 potentially being $100 and paving the way for a new industry standard pricing model for AAA gaming. We're going to go over that, discuss that extensively. We're also talking about the PlayStation 6. It seems a little bit early, of course, but as I suspected, going into 2025, we were going to get more rumors, reports, and leaks regarding the PlayStation 6. But this leak in particular is interesting because it seems to indicate that the PS6 may actually be launching sooner than originally anticipated, which certainly is interesting. And we're also going to cover the Shuhei Yoshida interview that he did with Kinda Funny Games. I meant to cover this yesterday, but we didn't have enough time. And he had a lot of interesting things to say. It was a very candid interview. And so I want to discuss that with you guys. What's up, Hey Tarnished? Kaz Jam, you think this generation was such a waste? I don't think it was a complete waste, but yeah, I think people are not going to look back on it that fondly, unfortunately. So, for those of you who are here right now, can you do me a favor if you haven't already? And please hit that like button to help the stream. We're currently sitting at 37 likes. We could easily get to 50 likes. It helps the streams more than you know. The start of the PS5 was very stacked. It was. Yeah, you could definitely make an argument that this generation was heavily front-loaded. Certainly. And when we look back, we might feel that way. We'll have to see. I mean, we have about 3 years. So we'll see what else Sony has in store. If it doesn't come out with multiple bugs, then 100 might be valid, at least for GTA. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in having this conversation because, you know, the question, will people pay $100 for Grand Theft Auto 6? The answer is yes. But the more important question is, will people pay $100 for other AAA games that are not Grand Theft Auto 6? That, I think the answer is probably no for the overwhelming majority of them. But yeah, very much appreciate you guys joining me today. Before we dive into any of these topics, I just want to ask you to consider funding the channel if it's within your means. We have quite a bit of members content we've been doing and will continue to do. So consider becoming a channel member. It helps tremendously. Consider gifting memberships. We are striving for a goal of 25 members. If we hit 25 members today, we will feed the beast. If we hit 50 members, we're going to get some reps in at the end of the stream. Consider dropping a super chat or a direct donation. These are all ways in which you can fund the channel directly. I'm only able to do these streams and have these discussions and conversations with you because you guys make it possible. So thank you to everybody who contributes. But I think we are going to start with this conversation around GTA 6. Games already cost about $100 in Europe, so what's the point? Well, let's go over this report. This comes from, let me see here. So I have the report up from PlayStation Lifestyle, and they say a new games industry report has caused some concern about potential PS6/next-gen game prices, according to veteran analyst Matthew Ball. some within the industry are secretly hoping that GTA 6 will set a new pricing standard for major AAA blockbusters to the tune of 80 to 100 US dollars. Ball's massive presentation titled The State of Video Gaming in 2025 has been circulating online since the weekend. In his report, he claims that if GTA 6 is priced between $80 and $100, as opposed to the usual $70, it will allow other studios to adjust their prices accordingly. For instance, a game like Call of Duty may be able to charge a base price of 100 US dollars. AA games might move up to 70 US dollars, and some indies might move up to 50 US dollars, and so on. Packaged game prices have never been lower in real terms than they are today, even though budgets are at an all-time high and player growth is stalled, Ball claims in his report. Players are understandably concerned, but others have also expressed doubts about the accuracy of this report. And so, yes, this is something that we have actually heard about before when it comes to GTA 6. There was a report, it was either last year or in 2022, I don't remember, but there was a report claiming that GTA 6 might end up being $150, which is laughable. People were laughing at it then. Of course, people are going to laugh at it now, but this is the second time we're hearing that there is the potential that GTA 6 may end up being more expensive than the average AAA game. And what's interesting about this report is this analyst is claiming that there are publishers secretly hoping that GTA does something like this so that way they can follow suit. And I find that kind of comical in a way because it's like, if GTA 6 is a game that could be labeled $80 or sold for $80, maybe even $90, maybe even $100, what makes these publishers think that their games are going to be anywhere near worth that? It's kind of strange when you think about it, right? Because I do think people would pay $100 for GTA 6, but not for most other games. Hold on one moment, guys. Bring Blockbuster back so we can rent the game because 150 is wrong. Illegal Monkey says, MBG, it's fine. I'll buy GTA disc copy for $100, play it, then sell it for 90 to 95 when I beat it. Well, here's what's strange about what's being said here. A lot of people already feel like $70 is too much for AAA games. There are quite a few people who flat out refuse to pay $70 for video games. And I think that's understandable because $70 is a lot of money. I think that when somebody decides to pay $70 for a video game, they are really hoping that this game is going to be amazing because that's really the only way that it's going to feel like spending $70 is justified, right? It has to be amazing. There has to be a good amount of content there, a lot to chew on, and it has to feel worth their while and worth the money. There's no denying that a game like GTA 6 is going to be worth the money, but it's like, again, if Rockstar says, you know what, we think our game is actually worth $80, I think people are going to pay that. I think most people would determine that, yeah, a game like GTA 6, you know, it's like a once in a lifetime type of game, potentially. It'll be worth the $80. But then you get EA or Ubisoft, and they come out and they say, okay, well, hey, our games are going to be $80 now. And maybe Sony as well. Maybe Microsoft. It's that it does make sense that publishers want this to happen because publishers want to make more money. This further highlights the problem with the AAA video game industry in 2025, though. The problem is games are being sold for a cheap price point, according to those who are making the games, because when you look at the budgets of said games, the price, the cost, I should say, of making these games is climbing. The cost of these games is going higher and higher and higher. Meanwhile, the price of these games are not going higher. They're sitting there still at $70. And a lot of these publishers feel like the price of these games should go higher. And this is what I think really highlights the problem with the AAA games industry, and why, if we continue down this path, there is inevitably going to be a crash at some point. I don't know if it's going to be as severe as the one we saw, what was it, 1983, when the video game crash happened. I don't think it would be that severe, but there will be consequences, certainly. Zeno76 with a $5 super chat. By the way, guys, if we do hit 20 teal or higher super chats today, that is another way in which we can feed the beast. Just be aware of that. If GTA 6 becomes the first real quadruple A game for $100, that creates a quality standard. You need to be this good to cost this much. Yes, I actually like this super chat, Zenzo, because this is the potential upside, right? This might not actually, if something like this were to occur where GTA 6 is going to be $100, it's going to make waves, obviously. A lot of people are going to be very upset. But if GTA 6 comes out and it's abundantly clear that there's nothing on the market like this, there's nothing on the market like GTA 6, it will create this kind of standard where, well, honestly, it might create the situation where it turns out Take-Two Interactive and Rockstar are the only ones capable of charging $100 because they're the only ones that have made a video game anywhere near this level. And it's kind of like what you're saying. It creates a new quality standard where it's like, listen, if you want to charge $100 for your video game, this is what you're going to have to strive for. And if you're not getting anywhere near close to that, then you should just sit down. I still think it's going to frustrate people. I still think people would be mad. I don't think the market is just going to blindly, or not even blindly, maybe the more appropriate word is just willingly, joyfully accept a $100 GTA 6. However, the reality does need to be spoken here. The reality is people will pay $100 for GTA 6. That is the reality. GTA 6 will not fail at $100. GTA 6 will still do, it will probably still break numerous records if it was sold for base copy $100. That is the reality. I do think that there would be people who decide that they want to boycott it and they want to take a stand and they want to push against it. And I think that's fine. I think a lot of people would do that. But I don't think anywhere near enough people are going to do that to have any type of impact to prevent that from happening if Take-Two Interactive wants to do that. Here's the important thing to understand, though, in my opinion. When we talk about GTA 6, we have to consider GTA Online 2. I don't think it is a smart idea for Take-Two Interactive to decide we are going to increase the base price of our game by $30, knowing that the main end goal here, because we have to keep in mind, what is the end game? What is the end goal? We want people to play GTA Online, and we want them to buy microtransactions for the next 5 to 6 to 7 years. Increasing the entry point cost is not going to help that end goal. It's going to hurt it. And so that is why I do not think, even if Take-Two Interactive believe they could get away with this, that they will do it. And I think the rest of the industry is going to have to take a seat and accept that this isn't the direction we're going in. The direction we need to be going in is get your budgets under control. That's the direction we need to be going in. Josh, you're saying you adamantly disagree. I could be completely wrong. Casual gamers are not going to pay $100. I mean, the only reason why I believe they would, Josh, is because they're already doing that. You know, not obviously there are not video games coming out where the standard version is 100, but there's a reason why EA and Ubisoft and every other video game publisher pretty much, they have these $80 to $100 to $120 versions of these games because they sell. I mean, would they lose a certain percentage of sales if they just said that's going to be our base price now? Absolutely. But they're thinking about it. That's the point. They're thinking about it. And the reason they're thinking about it is because there are people paying this amount of money. Because I look at the content that a lot of these editions offer, and it's not really substantial. I'm like, damn, dude, they're asking for $20 to $30 more dollars, sometimes even more than that. And I look at what they're offering, and sometimes they can't even tell you what they're offering. It's like content that's going to come later, and we have no idea how good it will or will not be. That's kind of crazy. Michael Lynch with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Michael, saying, I damn sure wouldn't pay $100 for any game. Also, 2027 is not earlier than expected. Sony said the earliest the PS6 would come out is 2027. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the next topic. I do think it's a little bit earlier. Maybe you're right. I could have missed that, or maybe I'm misremembering. The reason why I feel like 2027 is a bit earlier is because I recall there were documents that were revealed in 2022 in court that claimed the PlayStation 6 was targeting 2028. And I did hear rumors from, I think, places like Red Gaming Tech, where internally, or at least what he was being told, and I'm not sure if Moore's Law is Dead said this as well, but some of these tech YouTubers getting inside information from their sources claiming that they were targeting 2028. I think that maybe that's what Sony wanted to do. I do think that. I think that they would want to target 2028, but I think that they've maybe come to the conclusion that might not be the best idea to wait that long. But we're going to dive deeper into that conversation, Michael, once we get to that topic. So stick around, because I definitely have a couple things to say about that. And I do appreciate the super chat, man. They can sell GTA 6 single player for 70 and online for 30 to 40, both together 100. Is the volume on the lower side? Okay. Hold on. Let me make sure I can increase it a little bit. It should be a little bit better now. Let me know if it's too loud now. If it's too loud, I can decrease it. Hopefully it's a little bit better though. Stick around like Arnold throwing a knife into somebody. There you go, Michael. You got it. Perfect. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, there is going to be a real problem if this were to happen. I do want to highlight something here. Known insider, reliable insider, Tom Henderson actually reacted to this report, claiming that publishers are hoping for a new standard of $100. And he claims that these industry analysts, or at least this specific industry analyst, needs to start talking to more people within the industry, basically saying that that is not a common thing. There's not some collective hope behind the scenes that we're just going to push for this $100 standard. At least that's what Tom Henderson is claiming. And so I do believe that it would be potentially disastrous for something like this to occur. Not for GTA 6, not for Rockstar or Take-Two Interactive. I think they would be fine at the end of the day. I think it's still risky, but I think they would be fine. But I think if other publishers start to get this kind of like, yeah, our game's worth $100, I think they're going to find out very quickly, no, it's not. No, it's not. To the vast majority, no, it's not. Sorry. I mean, the price of things are going up. People are struggling to even afford groceries sometimes, and this is something where I understand it's always like, well, hey, if you're struggling in any area of your life financially, then video games shouldn't even be part of your life. I think that's just a little bit unfair, because it's like, well, everything is going up in price, and everything is just kind of getting to, levels that sometimes are just, it's kind of ridiculous, right? And so the idea that video games are just going to be thrown onto that, where it's like, yeah, man, sorry if you already had a problem with games being $70 and you already feel like it's not really worth the $70, or you're questioning if it's truly worth that $70. Now they're going to be 80 or 90 or even 100. I think, yeah, I do. And this is where I do kind of agree with Josh a little bit, where it's like, I think more and more people are just going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to wait. I'm good. And stuff like that does make stuff like Game Pass or even PlayStation Plus Extra and any of these subscription services, it makes them look even more valuable by comparison, right? And so I think the problem here is pretty clear. The problem is that Video game budgets need to get under control. And if that ultimately means, well, our AAA game can't be the most AAA game, then so be it. Okay. Fine. I really think at the end of the day, there is a happy middle ground here, a happy medium, where it's like, yes, we have to reduce the budget of our games, but they're still going to be AAA, but they're not going to all be, you know, on the absolute cutting edge of everything, technologically speaking. They're not going to be bloated. There's not going to be 10 hours of padding. Some of that actually sounds good. Yeah, cut some of that stuff out. We don't need all of it. Make a good game. Just make a good game with a moderate AAA budget and sell it. And I think gamers are going to respond positively to that, where it's like, yeah, this is really all we want. We just want good games. Not every game has to be like GTA 6. Not every game has to reach that level. Not every game has to try to reach that level. When you really want something, you find a way to buy it. Saving money is more effective than crying online about costs. I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying there, where people are going to find their own ways to do, you know, to partake in these things, and that's fine. A lot of games were $85 and $90 in the mid 90s. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the industry is going to discover that it has a problem. You know, like, I hear that all the time. It's like these games are being sold for less than they're worth. You know, the price is not going up. Like, games should be more expensive. Like, that is a thing that you will see a lot of people say, especially a lot of people who are, you know, paying attention to the, you know, to the monetary side of the industry, right? The budget side, that they will tell you, like, yeah, the price of video games need to go up and they should be higher. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, I guess, like, when you break it down, but how is the market going to respond? How, like, that's the question that needs to be answered. And I do think that at the end of the day, if games go from $70 to $80, you're going to lose people. You're going to start pricing people out. And if they go beyond $80, I think, yeah, you're definitely going to lose people at a more rapid rate. And I just think that it's like this, the AAA games market doesn't seem to be growing, you know? The traditional games market doesn't seem to be growing. It seems to be shrinking. And I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough thing to contend with. I really feel like we just got to get back to some basics here. Subscription services will rise. I agree. Oliver, a member for 20 months, says, I think Herman Hulst is a big issue for PlayStation Studios in the current situation with, you say with DEI crap, etc. Anyway, great times ahead. Happy second Trump term. I mean, we're going to find out, Oliver. I did talk about this briefly. It's very obvious that many companies are now falling in line and course correcting now that the Biden administration is done and over and the Trump administration is taking over once again, his second term. I think it's very obvious. You are already seeing big billion-dollar and trillion-dollar companies throwing out their DEI, you know, their DEI training. They're removing it, and it's comical. It's comical to me because it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't think there was never a need to be extreme about any of this. There was never a need to be extreme about any of it. And so, I don't know. We'll find out with Herman Hulst. It basically sounds like you're saying you believe Herman Hulst is a Wokey. And as long as he's heading PlayStation Studios, he's going to be looking for that. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's a bit extreme. I think we have to just give it a little bit of time. We're going to see what Herman Hulst greenlights and what he doesn't. And, you know, we're going to see what Herman Hulst's slate of PlayStation games ends up looking like without Jim Ryan's mandate of make live service games, right? Herman Hulst has complete control now in terms of running the games ship for PlayStation. And that is, I would say, a huge responsibility. So we're going to find out, man. And I honestly would say that Sony and PlayStation could benefit quite a bit by just, ensuring that they're not trying to have anything, not that they're not having developers force anything in their games. I think that at this point in time, they would benefit greatly from that. We'll find out if they, end up doing that or not. Look at Metaphor, a perfect example of a very political game that has nothing to do with modern left/right politics. Yeah, that was interesting to me. I didn't play that game, but I did see people saying like it's a very political game, but it's not handling it in the way that people expect. And maybe that's exactly it, right? Like maybe people really don't mind having politics in some games. They just don't like it. I think people don't like the idea of like an angry developer who got triggered on Twitter basically deciding that they're going to take their wrath out on the player base by injecting certain messages and themes, haphazardly into their games because of how upset they are. It's like, I don't think anybody's going to respond positively to that. I just don't. I don't see how anybody would. If you have a message, it's just goes back to the saying. I've said it many times. It's not what you say, it's how you say it that matters. People are either going to listen or they're not. And if you approach it with some kind of aggressive, bitter attitude, like you know better, or like you have a chip on your shoulder, nobody's going to listen. Most people won't. But we're going to find out, man. We will see. I think Ghost of Yotei and Intergalactic will be good tests to see, because Ghost of Yotei is the big one for me, where like I could see Intergalactic ruffling some feathers, and I could definitely see Neil Druckmann, making people angry again. But Ghost of Yotei is the one where it's like, I think they would really have to go out of their way to actually piss people off. And I'm very curious to see how it plays out. Silent Hill 2 Platinum yet, MBG? Yep, I did get the Silent Hill 2 Platinum about a week and a half ago. So I got that one. It's in the bag. That's interesting, Oliver. Ice Queen Gaming, you're saying you don't think Herman is woke at all. That is stupid, in my opinion. I mean, there's this kind of prevailing theme that, and I think that this theme is going to proliferate, especially now, after today, in gaming, where it's like we need to get the woke out of gaming, the DEI, the left, the extreme left politics out of gaming. And I think the reason for that is because we've seen many examples. Like I said, it's just over the last 4 to 5 years, especially the last 4 to 5 years, we've just seen too many examples of like just cringe behavior, cringe developers just like sabotaging their own games for no reason. And I think that, unfortunately, Sony has kind of found themselves in this group. For a lot of people, they view Sony and PlayStation as like, yeah, they're one of them. I don't think it's fair to label everything they've done that way. I really don't think that's fair. I think some people are being way too extreme about things. But there's no denying that it's like, Sony, look, if you were so willing to embrace these initiatives over the last 4 to 5 years because it seemed like the popular thing to do and the thing that's going to make money, I'm curious to see how you react now, how you're going to react in the next 4 years, because I guarantee you the more popular thing to do and the thing that's going to make you the most money is going to be the opposite of what you've been seeing from a lot of developers. I really think that. So that's going to be interesting to see unfold in front of us. Hopefully it's, you know, it's going to be polar opposite in a bad way. I hope not, man. Yeah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that nonsense. I just want to see it get back to a happy medium, a good balance. The idea of like every game is going to be, you know, now every game is going to be anti-woke. Like we don't need that either. We need normalcy. That's all. We need artists to just get back to making great art, you know? Focus on the characters, the stories. Focus on the gamers, man. Make the gamers happy. Don't forget you're making games. But time will tell. Time will tell. Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to get better at not using the term woke because I just don't think it's used properly anymore. I'm just not sure what other term to use at this point. That's like the most widely accepted, but did I hear what Trump said yesterday about the woke culture? I did not. I did not. On the PlayStation blog, they do say he, him whenever after someone's name. I mean, stuff like that, I don't really care. I'm not going to pretend to care about that. You know, I feel like if I'm getting all in my feelings because of something like that, that's a me problem. Because it's like, who cares? I mean, I know there are people out there who absolutely care. That's why they're doing it. But I'm just like, okay. Like, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I don't know who you are. I don't care to know who you are. Just please give me the important information that I need. Inserting modern politics is what I hear more now by normal people instead of woke. Okay. Yeah, that might be a better way to. Okay, I think I like that. Inserting modern day politics. All right. And so you're saying it hasn't been used properly in years, shaking my head. Yeah, I definitely have not helped the situation with that. This is what, yeah, I just think that, like I said, my hope is that we'll find a better balance. I think that the pendulum has swung too far in one direction, and that's not good. I don't think it's been good for any industry. I don't think it's been good for the customers, for the people who want these products. Drucking it up. Yep. Druckmann doing what Druckmann's gonna do by drucking it up. Well, anyway. Oh. Yeah, I do think that things have become a little bit concerning where, like, I saw when Sony put out the Until Dawn movie trailer, the top upvoted reply on the official PlayStation X account was the person said, it looks woke and feminist. It looks like woke feminist garbage or something. I'm like, I'm just like literally perplexed. Like, what? Like, did we just watch the same movie trailer? And you know what this is what upsets me. Yeah, people's minds are rotted. What upset me about that a little bit, just slightly, not seriously, but just slightly, is like, no, what you mean to say is there are people of color in this movie and that bothers you. There are females and people of color in this movie and you're upset. That's what he meant to say. And that, I think, is sad. Not that that person said that, because there's plenty of morons saying stuff like that, but because it was the most upvoted response. Like, bro, what? Why are people agreeing with this moronic, idiotic statement? And yes, it is the absolute definition of brain rot. And that's the shit that I don't want to see in gaming, man, because that's not going to help anything. That's just going, you want to talk about taking steps backwards. That's exactly what that is. This is where I just think people are looking for things that aren't actually there. And that is brain rot. That's insanity. Like, you're going crazy. You're becoming a crazy person. I think it's very sad. You think they're bot armies? I mean, that's the thing, man. I take it all with a grain of salt at this point. Anything I see on the internet now, I take with a grain of salt, because I always take a step back and question, wait, is that even real? That might not be real. And that, ever since I started doing that, it basically changes my perspective of like, that might not be real. Like, there's a 50% chance that's not real. That the person saying that isn't even real, or the upvotes they're getting aren't real. And that it's just creating a fake, it's an illusion, basically. Saying that person who said that will come back. It'll come back to them one day. Seabass in the comments or in the chat. Nintendo saving the games industry once again. MBG, do you remember how people used to talk in the comments, like me? How many comments do you read that it's like, that's not human? Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I can't tell anymore. That's the thing. I can't tell. I do see comments that seem very real. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a real person that typed this. And I noticed that the most real comments to me seem to be the ones that don't make me go, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I think that's how I've grown to determine what's real and what's not. Because the truth is, if a brain rotted person is leaving a comment, they could be, yeah, that could be a real human being leaving that comment. But because of the way they're speaking, I would never know. I'm just assuming that's not real. Like, that can't be a real take. You know what I mean? That can't be a real response. So it may as well just be the same thing. We are still in an internet era of anonymous that may not always be the case. MBG, I got a reply from a YouTuber. I'm 99% sure they used a bot to reply. Well, surely things have to get a little bit better, right? A little bit, maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know. GTA 6 will come in and save us. Save us, Rockstar. We need GTA 6. Joshua says, I think Rich Rod is an AI, to be honest. Man, that's so... I'm not going to lie. That's so funny to think. It was never real, man. It was never real. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when it comes to the pricing of games. $100, $80. GTA 6, $100. What do you say about that? I think GTA can get away with it. I think they will lose some sales, certainly. But I think the industry would not be able to switch to a $100 standard. I don't think the industry could do that successfully. Sony AI supercomputer. GTA 6 better only be $70. I think it's going to be $70. I think they're going to have different editions and different versions you can buy that will be very expensive, and I think a lot of people will buy those versions. And that's why I don't understand why developers want to push so aggressively to make a new standard $80, $90, $100. I don't understand that when it's like you're already selling different editions and versions of games that go to like $120, $130 if you're Ubisoft, and people buy it. I'm seeing like $150 versions of games, and there are people buying this. So it's like, why not just continue that way? Like, I'm getting a little sick and tired of these companies being like, we're not making enough money. Like, what are you talking about? How are you not making enough money? You're making billions upon billions of dollars. How are you not making enough money? Why does everything always have to be tossed onto the consumer? I mean, like every time, like it's always the consumer, always. And I just feel like, sometimes the market gets a little bit exhausted, man. I get it. It's easy for us. If we want it, buy it. If we don't buy it. Walk away. I get it. But it's just like, man, it gets exhausting sometimes. It really does get exhausting sometimes where it's like, why? Like, come on, man. Can we ever get a break? The numbers aren't to their liking. Exactly. That's what frustrates me. It's never enough. But I'm telling you, man, there is a limit here. There is a limit. And I think when we start talking about the idea of $100 AAA games, I think that's when we get very close to approaching that limit of like, I think you guys, if the industry believes that they can just charge $100 per AAA game and the market will just accept that, to me, that's the equivalent of you're going to F around and find out. Yeah, I think you're going to find out real quick. Unverified Bear, member for 14 months. He says, using my milestone to repeat my most sent MBG comment, this is the stupidest, most pointless console generation in history. Waste of time and money. Ouch. Unverified Bear. Very, very unsettled with this console generation. This console generation is turning out to not be very good. Yeah, for many reasons. I'm not that extreme about it. Like, I don't think it's bad or certainly not terrible, but I'm just not. The enthusiasm that I had going into this generation in 2020 and 2021 has really subsided quite a bit. My enthusiasm is not very high. It's not to say that I'm not looking forward to stuff. I am. There are still plenty of games I'm looking forward to, but I'm not. The hype factor is gone, dude. Straight up. For now. Outside of GTA 6, the hype factor is mostly gone. I mean, is there hype for Death Stranding 2? Yeah, but it's not like, it's not like super hype where I'm like, yes, I'm going to lose my mind. It's not like that. Maybe it's okay. It doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be. I have my concerns. I have my reservations. And I just feel like this is where Sony let me down. And it's fine. It's fine for now. I just feel like the hype that I had for... Yeah, that's true. Metal Gear. I'm definitely hyped for Metal Gear. GTA 6 and Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake are probably my two most hyped games. Like, those are two games that I have very... Like, that's to say, peak hype. You know what I mean? I wish everything could be like that. And I wish I could feel that way confidently in Sony. But it's just like we talked about the potential. We talked about the potential of a state of play yesterday. And I can't lie. Like, I don't have much hype at all. First, it's fine. Like, my hype is to hang out with you guys and watch it together. That's my hype. My hype isn't actually for what Sony's going to show. If they surprise me, awesome. But it's just after the recent news, I feel kind of deflated. I think a lot of people do. But we're going to see. The hype has died. I think it could be revived. I just think it might take time. I think it might take some time. But yeah, I think the hype has mostly died down. And wow, Angry Well Watcher definitely knows how to get me excited. The next State of Play could very well have Fair Games as the main attraction. Dude, you know what? If there's a part of me, there's like a chaotic part of me that's almost like, do it, Sony. Please. I welcome it at this point. I welcome the chaos. Come on, let's just see how low we can go. Dude, the idea of Fair Games being the main attraction at Sony's next State of Play, it reminds me of that scene from Batman where, oh my God. It reminds me of that scene from Batman, the original Batman, where he's like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. That's Sony, bro. If they come out with Fair Games as their main attraction, that's basically Sony at this point. Yeah, all right. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's get crazy. Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Metal Gear Solid Delta, Wolverine, Venom, GTA 6, Phantom Blade 0, Horizon 3, Cory Barlog's no IP, still hype. That's quite, yeah, there's still quite a bit. Truth be told, there's still quite a bit. Illegal Monkey with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, buddy. When Demon's Souls Remake was shown, I felt like a 5-year-old on Christmas, insanely excited. Couldn't wait to see what Bluepoint did next. I am so pissed. Yeah, man, I feel that one. Oh yeah, Lost Soul Aside as well. I actually keep forgetting about that. Keaton begged for that scene so he could be in a scene with Nicholson without the mask. That's awesome. I didn't know that. What a great scene. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to think about it. Illegal Monkey, because I was very stoked. I feel pretty much the same way you do, where when Demon's Souls was shown for the first time, Demon's Souls Remake, I'm like, this looks incredible. And I had never played the original Demon's Souls, but I played all the Dark Souls games as well as Bloodborne, and I'm like, yes. This is basically a brand new game for me, a brand new FromSoft Souls game, and it lived up. That was the very first game I played at launch on the PS5. I remember I streamed it the launch night of the PS5. It was amazing. It was awesome, and I went back and played a little bit of Demon's Souls again on the PS5 Pro, and it looked even better. And it is sad. It is really sad to think that, man, we're not going to see Bluepoint again this generation. And, it doesn't mean that everything's crumbling and gone and over. It's all toast, but at least when it comes to Bluepoint, yeah, there's definitely a reason to be very frustrated. Spider-Man 3, possibly Uncharted 5, and Santa Monica's second IP story game, and Intergalactic. I think a lot of that stuff you just mentioned, I really think, besides Intergalactic, that's all going to be PS6 stuff. And I know it sounds like nonsensical to say this, but considering we are going to talk about the PlayStation 6, the PS6 has the potential to basically be everything the PS5 generation was supposed to be. And Dark Knight with a $2, looks like it was a super chat, but nothing was actually typed. You're saying, Dark Knight says, I don't know if you played Dead Space Remake back in 2023 because it sold well for the developer, but not well enough for EA, even though it got good reviews. I did play that, and it was awesome. And yeah, I don't know what's going on anymore, where these games are apparently selling well enough, but it just seems like these big AAA game publishers, they need games to sell really, 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 really well. I got a comment recently from somebody saying, I keep hearing about Astrobot, but yet only like 1.5 million copies were sold, and like a very, a fraction of the PS5 install base bought it. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of the nature of the beast sometimes. I think it doesn't mean the game shouldn't be supported and shouldn't be made. I think it has a lot of potential. I think Sony should not get crazy and be like, if the next Astrobot doesn't sell 8 million copies, then it's a failure. I think it's just, it has to be stacked up against the amount of time and money that went into it. And I think for something like Astrobot, it's appropriate. MRPD, I'm mostly enjoying it so far. Just very confused because there's just a lot going on, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm just continuing to play it, and I'm liking it so far. Guys, do me a favor as we continue our conversation. If you haven't already, please take a moment and hit that like button. We are sitting at 91 likes. I want to see if we can bump that up to 100 likes, maybe 125. It helps the streams more than you know. Kane Z7 with a super chat says, hey, MBG, just wanted to add something to the GTA 6 conversation. People would pay $100 for a game they like. I usually pay for the deluxe edition for games I'm looking forward to. I'm not buying GTA 6 for any price. Don't care. That's shocking. You're not excited for GTA 6, Kane? No, I didn't get to Keanu Reeves yet, MRPD. I feel like I have to be close, though. I was kind of wondering. I'm like, when's he supposed to show up? I think I'm getting close. But Kane, I do think you're right about that. Yeah, I think people, if there are games they're really excited for, I do think that holds true, that people are willing to pay a little bit more for games that they really, really want. And that's why I think GTA 6 could get away with it, because even though there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not paying that much, I think that there are just as many people who would say, I really do want it and I'm going to pay it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll pay the extra money for this game. This might be the only game. You know, I think for some people, GTA 6 is the only game they're going to play for probably the remainder of the generation. You know? So I do think there is some truth to that, but I don't think that that's something, like I said, that should become a standard within the industry, because it's just like what you're saying. People, and I mentioned this as well, people already buy the deluxe or ultimate versions of games, and it's like, there you go. There you go. You can get the extra money from people who are willing to pay for it without having to upset everybody. We are going to move on to the next topic, though, which talks about the PlayStation 6. We have new information about the PlayStation 6 leaking that I think is relevant. I do. I'm not trying to like oversell it, and make it seem like this is a huge deal and oh my God, we're learning everything about it. We're not. But you'll see what I mean in a moment. So this is being reported by WCCF Tech. They say work on the PlayStation 6 seems to be in a much more advanced stage than most people thought, according to rumors circulating online. Speaking on the NeoGAF forums, well-known AMD leaker Kepler L2 commented on the next generation system from Sony. Now, before I continue, Kepler L2 is a spot-on leaker when it comes to AMD and stuff like that. So this is definitely a reliable source. Kepler L2 revealed that the PlayStation 6's SoC is now design complete and is currently in pre-silicon validation already, with A0 tap-out scheduled for later this year. While this may mean little to most, this new information suggests that the console may not be too far from release, as Sony's usual cadence between A0 tap-out and the release of a new system is 2 years, meaning that if this will be the same for the PlayStation 6, we could see the launch of the system in 2027. The AMD leaker also provided some additional information on the PlayStation 6 GPU, revealing it is a fork of AMD GFX 13, which was formerly known as RDNA 5 and is now known as UDNA. The leaker couldn't say how big it will be, but the fact that it will belong to the GFX 13 will eventually provide some information on some of its features once AMD fully unveils the architecture. Very little is known about the PlayStation 6 as of now, besides the fact that it will once again be powered by AMD. This was revealed last year in a report which confirmed that Intel lost the bid to produce the console to AMD due to a dispute over how much profit Intel would make from each chip sold to Sony, which prevented the company from settling on a price. So, excuse me, there are a couple of really interesting things here, I think. I want to focus on the fact that the SoC is now complete. The SoC design. One of the things that Kepler L2 also talked about, and I believe this was a couple of months ago, Kepler L2 basically revealed that Sony had two different SoC designs that they were working on. And we had to kind of take our best guess, and we still have to take our best guess as to what these two SoCs could be. Are they two different versions of the PlayStation 6? A less powerful version, a more powerful version? Is it one SoC is for the PlayStation 6, the other SoC is actually for the upcoming handheld that they're apparently working on? These are questions we're not going to know the answer to until we, see Sony start talking about the PlayStation 6. But what is important here is that it's SoC complete. It's done. Sony has it locked in. What the PlayStation 6 is going to be in terms of specifications is now locked in and is currently in pre-silicon validation, whatever that means. I guess that kind of means they're going to figure out the form factor or how it's going to... I guess that's my assumption. I don't know what A0 tap out means, by the way. Or tape out. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly. Does anybody know what this means, A0 tape out? I need to look this up. Says tape out tape out is the final stage of the design process for integrated circuits or printed circuit boards before they are set for manufacturing. Okay. All right. Well, that explains that then. The PlayStation 6 Series S. So the A0 tape out is scheduled for late this year. So late this year would be September, October, November. So closer to holiday 2025. And it says that every single time Sony has done this process, the console's ready to release 2 years after the tape out. 2 years. 2 years would mean holiday 2027. I just think this is relevant because, I don't know, I was under the impression that the PlayStation 6 would not be coming until 2028. Apparently, Sony may have actually been targeting 2027 this entire time, which is a bit of a surprise to me because it really, I'll be honest with you guys, it kind of makes it clear that, yeah, this generation is pretty much wrapped up. It's not to say that Sony isn't going to have a couple more surprises. I think they could, but considering where we are, you think they're going to have one extra year of troubleshooting? You think so? I don't know. Considering where we are, I mean, we're hearing that the next generation Xbox is going to be ready to go as soon as 2026. This year, we know what we're getting. We're getting Ghost of Yotei. We're getting Death Stranding 2. We're getting Marathon. Fair games if it doesn't get canceled. There's Wolverine and Intergalactic. I assume Wolverine and Intergalactic are going to be 2026 games. But then the question becomes, what is Sony going to have for 2027? Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about Venom. I don't know. I'm like at a point where I don't believe Venom is even real. Maybe that got canceled as well. PS6, LOL, slow news day. Well, I mean, yeah. But I do think this is, like, I'm going to obviously cover the PlayStation 6. It's not the biggest news, but Venom better be real or you're going to be pissed, Devil Shooter. I mean, yeah, I would be surprised if they didn't do something with Venom just because, I don't know, it seemed like if you played Spider-Man 2, I try not to spoil things here, but there was definitely a segment in Spider-Man 2 that it would make a lot of sense why they would, want to have a standalone Venom game. Neutral Zone, a member for 17 months. Thank you for the support, Neutral Zone. You're saying if Sony is releasing the PS6 in 2027, it's because they don't want the Xbox console and handheld with 2 years of release ahead that could cause some harm. I mean, yeah, I don't think there's really anything Microsoft can do to make a proper comeback in the console space. I do think that doesn't mean there isn't a possible chance of it happening. And I think that Sony, frankly, would have to be... I think that they would have to be a little too confident, to basically say, yeah, go ahead, you can have a 2-year head start. But then again, I don't know. Some people might view that as a good thing because the longer we have to wait for the PS6, the better it will be. What's really interesting to think, though, about the PlayStation 6, the fact that it's nailed down. Sony knows what the PlayStation 6 is going to be. They've decided on the specs. This must mean that they have a price point in mind. Right? And basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the strategy has been nailed down. I think they know what they're going to do. I think now it's just a matter of building to that, but they know what the strategy is. And I'm just curious if we're going to hear more about that. I'm interested in the leaks. I'm interested in knowing what the specs of the PlayStation 6 are going to be. I'm going to be covering this stuff, but really at this point in time, what I'm most interested in is what's their strategy? Are there going to be 2 consoles? Is there going to be 1? Is there going to be a handheld? What's the price they're going for? What's their lineup going to be? What's their stance on exclusives? Because I feel like we know the rest of the PS5. We know the rest of this generation. We have Kane Z7 with a super chat. He says, not really MBG. Parts get cheaper with time. Yeah, but I mean, the PlayStation 6 is expected to be pretty cutting edge, right? So will it really... Can we expect it to be cheap if they're going to try to make a cutting edge console? Or do you think they could cheap out on it a little bit? Kazjam with a $5 super chat says, what if the next generation Xbox is so powerful that Sony will have to wait 2 years just to match it? Well, the only way that could happen is if Microsoft is willing to sell like a $900 console. You know what I mean? They could. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but Microsoft could just basically be like, listen, we literally want just the most hardcore, dedicated Xbox console fans to buy this console. We're going to give you the best shit ever made. $900. Yeah, I think there would be Xbox players who would absolutely pay for that. Where it's basically future-proofed, You're paying for it. Yeah, you're paying a lot. It's going to be like the most expensive console ever. One of the most expensive ever. But the advantage that Sony would have if they were to wait 2 years is they could sell that exact same console with the exact same power for significantly less money. But, you could make the argument that maybe at that time, well, I don't know. The prices are not expected to go down. That's something that's important to understand. The prices as of right now for these components are not expected to get cheaper because, I mean, what Kane Z7 said, that has been true up until this point. There's a reason why the PS5 is not going down in price. There's a reason why the PS5 Pro is $700. There's a reason why the next Xbox is going to be a premium priced Xbox, just like the PS6 will be. The only option that these companies really have, the only option Sony has, is to sell the PlayStation 6 at a loss. And there's no way they're going to do that, man. There's no way Sony's going to sell the PS6 at a loss. That's why I think one of the things Sony's going to do is have payment. They're going to offer payment plans. I don't know how well that's going to be received, but I do think they're going to do that. Maybe I think Microsoft already did that earlier this generation with the Xbox consoles for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. But you really think it depends on how much a PS5 Pro would cost prior to the PS6 launch? Well, here's what's interesting to think. The PS5 Pro right now is $700. Do we expect a price drop in the next year? Probably not. Okay, what about 2026 to 2027? Do we expect a price drop then? I want to remind you once again, and it's just something that we have to keep in mind when we approach the PS6 in the coming years. We are 5 years basically. Well, 4 years. 4 years and a couple months into the PlayStation 5 console generation. There has been no permanent price cut of this console. Not one. So I think it's highly unlikely that we can expect any kind of PS5 Pro price cut, considering the base PS5, the one that's more important for Sony to sell, hasn't received a price cut. It'd be very, very interesting, to see when Sony's going to choose. Because here's what's interesting, guys. I want you to think about this. If Sony is targeting a holiday 2027 release, holiday 2027 for PS6, that means we have 2025 and 2026. That's it. We have 2 more years of the PS5 generation, because 2027 is going to be all about the PS7. The PS7. Yeah, 2027, all about the PS7, all about the PS6. 2027, the PS5 generation is effectively over. So that basically would mean 2 more years of the PS5, which would basically cut it almost in half from what I expected. I mean, I expected at least, and again, not completely in half, but 3 years. We're just going based off of it's a leak, but the tape out is done. So I don't know. Maybe Sony could wait longer this time. When I say the PS5 generation is over, I don't mean like literally it's over, like Sony's done. I just mean like for the enthusiasts, for those of us who follow closely, it's like, okay, it's time to move on now. The PS5 is going to be just as relevant as the PS4 was, maybe even more. Okay, you're saying I did suggest long ago that the Pro would be $700, that GTA 6 would be $100, and the PS6 $1,000 in 2027, with $100 standard for next gen games. My God, bro. Yeah, I couldn't keep up with that. I'm gonna go subscribe to Game Pass, man. I couldn't keep up with that. $1,000 PS5, $100 games. Like, what the fuck? That's nuts. I hope it doesn't go in that direction. Yeah, I'm going to have to double my membership price, bro. The membership goal is just going to be to get a PS6. I hope that's not the direction it goes in, because I'll be honest, man, I don't know. The games industry is going to look real spooky if that's actually what we're looking at. Real spooky, where it's like, hey, we got the Nintendo Switch 2 for $400. Well, I guess it's going to be $400. And it's like, it's running, games that came out in 2021 at like 30 FPS, 900p. And we're like, oh, okay, maybe 1080p. And it's just, it's weird to think that I don't know how we progress. I don't know how we progress here, because like that, I say this as a PlayStation enthusiast who is going to be excited for the PlayStation 6 no matter what, but I would have to ask $1,000 fucking dollars, what is this thing doing? Because I'm pretty sure I'm just going to stick with my Pro. Okay. I mean, for me, that's the big question is like, I'm always excited about new hardware, of course, but $1,000, man, it's like, what is this console doing? But something else I want to say is that, like, the only way I could see Sony being willing to sell a video game console, a PlayStation console, for $1,000, they would have to make it abundantly clear that this is not a new generation. You know what I mean? Basically, the PS6 would have to be the PS5 Pro. And they would have to make it pretty obvious that that's what it is. Like, this is for the person that's really excited for minimal upgrades. Huh? For the person that's really excited to pay $1,000 for minimal upgrades. Yeah, I don't know. The Pro Plus. I don't. It's just because it's like, if you sell a console at $1,000, you're not selling that console to more than maybe a couple million people at most. You're not selling that console. And so my assumption and okay, why I still don't, maybe you'll be right, but I do not believe the PS6 is going to be anywhere near that much, is because it's like, I'm under the belief and the assumption that Sony still wants to sell tens of millions of consoles quickly. You know, if they release the PS6 in 2027, by 2029, they want to have 30 to 35 or 40 million sold. Something like that, you know? And I just, like, if you sell a console for $1,000, you're not going to get even half that. So I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do. This is why I'm so interested in PS6 rumors, because things are so, for me right now anyway, in terms of, like, you think the market's going to adjust to $1,000? It's just such a, I mean, is the market adjusting to $700 for the PS5 Pro? I mean, I guess. I mean, maybe. Maybe. Maybe they'll have to, like, old times eat the cost. I mean, I don't know if that was their only choice. I don't know if they would do it. It's a huge risk. So does that mean the new Xbox console is going to be $1,000? Why is the conversation only around PS6? I mean, I said earlier that I think the next Xbox could be $1,000. Yeah, I think it could be ultra premium, and I think Microsoft is, because I think what Microsoft is going to want to do is, you know, if only 10 to 15 million people are willing to buy the new Xbox, maybe even less than that, maybe even less, because the Series X is selling worse than the Xbox One, dude. Make sure that those who are going to buy it, you're making a good profit off of. And not that they won't get their money's worth. They will, but, you know, it's going to be expensive, essentially, if you want the next Xbox. They might go in the opposite direction than what they took with the Series S, because with the Series S, they tried to make the most affordable next-gen console, and I don't think it worked for them. I really don't think it worked. I think in some ways, I think it kind of backfired. Although you could argue without the Series S, maybe their sales would be half of what they are now. But I think they go with a more premium console because they're going to make it clear that this is for the Xbox enthusiast. You know, the person who's still willing to buy an Xbox. That's my guess. Maybe I'm completely wrong, though. Maybe they'll do the opposite. Maybe they will come out and be like, it's going to be. Well, I mean, I don't know. The Series X is already. I mean, they have a digital only Series X. What is it, 400 now? No, it's still 500, right? How much is that digital only Series S, by the way, the white one? Surely that's not 400, is it? I feel like that would be selling if it was 400. I'm pretty sure it's. No, it's definitely not 349. I don't think that's right. Depends on if you're talking about the 1 or 2 terabyte. 449. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm getting all these different prices. Let me see. Xbox Series X. Okay, it's 450. Okay, whoever said 449 was correct. For the 1 terabyte all digital Series X white console, it's 450. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the next Xbox is coming to market as soon as late 2026, I don't see how they could. I don't see how they're going to be able to sell it at like 500 or 600 bucks. I think the absolute cheapest would be 600, but even then, you're going to have to question what's in it. You know, if we're talking about a cutting edge console, which that's what Microsoft made it sound like, they're going all in with it. Again, the PS5 Pro at that time might still be $700. I don't know. I think we're looking at a very premium Xbox and a very premium priced Xbox and a very premium priced PlayStation for the next gen consoles. I don't doubt that. I don't know. I don't know that I believe they're going to be $1,000 though. I like even the idea of like $1,000 Xbox. It's like, God, man, I don't. It's just so extreme. It's so extreme. Yeah, Irfan, we might talk about that tomorrow. These companies are, I'm telling you, man, they're not going to sell these consoles at a loss now. They're just not going to do it. There was a time, as we saw before, that these companies would be willing to eat the loss, but something has changed. Something has changed. I don't know what has changed, but something has changed. Hold on. What is going on here? Give me 1 sec, guys. Oh, okay. All right, that was weird. Huh. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the conversation around the PlayStation 6 and next generation, it just seems like there's just still so much unknown, but stuff like this to me is worth covering at least for a little bit, because it's like, yeah, that changes a lot for me. I thought the PlayStation 6 was going to come out in 2028. We are not getting official confirmation that it's coming out in 2027, but based off of everything we know, based off of this new leaked information, it seems very, very likely they're targeting 2027. And considering we pretty much know by now that Microsoft's targeting 2026, this actually does make sense. I don't think Sony would want to wait 2 years. I think they would start to sweat, which they should, because like people are going to get antsy. 2 years is a long time, dude. That's a long time. But we are going to move on to the final set of topics here, which we're gonna cover Shuhei Yoshida and his Candid interview. Hence, the everything is an Xbox philosophy. It is the answer to the low-cost entry points into the ecosystem dedicated home consoles becoming very expensive. A premium option out of reach for casuals. You could almost envision everything is a PlayStation marketing. Everything's a PlayStation. I do want to move on to covering some of these things that Shuhei Yoshida had to say. A couple of you guys were asking me yesterday if I was going to be covering the Shuhei Yoshida interview. I am. I want to start with what Shu had to say about remasters. Okay. Shuhei Yoshida is officially retired from Sony now after 31 years. And it's clear that Shuhei Yoshida was not really allowed to talk to anybody for as long as he was, for the last 5 years or 6 years, basically once he got demoted to, at least it seems like a demotion. If it wasn't a demotion, but since he, decided to be head of indies, I want to talk about what he had to say here about remasters, and I'm actually really curious what you guys have to say. This is being reported by Push Square. It says some PS5 fans have been a little frustrated by Sony's output over the last few years, with what feels like fewer brand new games and an increase in remasters and remakes. While that's an understandable frustration, ex-PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida says these projects are necessary to allow first-party teams to keep making original titles. Speaking on Kinda Funny Games, Yoshida is asked if there's anything he hears a lot from fans that is wrong, or perhaps just ill-informed. And he talks about how he sees a lot of commentary about remasters. I joked about PlayStation co-CEO Herman Hulst being criticized for making too many remasters, Yoshida says. I think the people who complain about that are maybe thinking Herman is doing that instead of doing something new. But I'm sure these remakes are made by a dedicated, different team or some porting teams, especially the PC version. So I don't think he's sacrificing anything by doing remasters. Yoshida continues, pointing out that a remake or remaster project is much cheaper to produce, creates additional revenue, and creates new users to the IP, especially when you port the game to PC. Making remasters, PC ports, and remakes can bring in enough revenue to keep investing in big titles, Yoshida says. Single-player games now cost so much, so they need additional income by doing remasters and porting to PC to be able to do that. He concludes by saying that if remaster naysayers like first party's output, the big single-player games, they should support Herman doing these ports and remasters so that they can keep investing in these great new games. Now, I'm just really curious what you guys think about what Shuhei Yoshida is saying here. Again, he's saying this after leaving Sony. I think that for me personally, I think there's probably some truth to this, but I think there's a major factor being left out that, I'm not saying what Shuhei Yoshida is saying is disingenuous. I just think that it's kind of an unfortunate circumstance where it's like, I get it. You need to make more revenue to help support and fund these really expensive projects and to justify them, to justify the ballooning of $300 to $400 million projects. But it just feels, I'll be honest, it feels kind of like bullshit when we hear this, knowing that how much did Concord cost? How much did you spend to buy that team to then shut it down? How much money did you flush down the toilet with all of these live service games that got canceled? You see what I'm saying? And I get it. Like, mismanagement with money, it happens. These companies are not, they're always prone to mismanaging their money and their budgets. But I just think it's kind of shit that it's like, listen, if you want this next big single-player game, we're really going to need you to go out and buy this remaster. It's like, what do you mean? Like, we're going to need that money. Why do you need that money? What about all the money you made from the previous games? Yeah, we blew that on canceled live service games. Sorry. I think that's what's kind of bothering me. It's more of the timing, because I think there is truth to what he's saying. Like, of course, there's value in remasters. There is value in that. And like people, here's another thing. And I don't know that this is Shuhei Yoshida's fault, but I think one of the things that Herman is out of touch with, not Shu, but maybe Herman, is that like, dude, people are asking for remasters. You're just remastering the wrong games. Literally nobody was asking for an Until Dawn remake or whatever. Like, and I say this as somebody who bought it and played it, and I'm like evidence that you can get new people on board with stuff like this. But even I know literally nobody was asking for this. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, literally nobody was asking for it. People were questioning The Last of Us Part 1 remake. Like, why do we need this right now? Nobody's saying we can never get a remake of The Last of Us, but why right now? You know, like, why can't we wait till the PS6 generation or something? This is what I think is the problem, is like, you know, they need to be able to come out and actually listen to the take requests. Like, what would you like to see remastered? Because there's a whole list. There's a whole list of things that fans would be lining up saying, yeah, please remaster this, remaster that. We'll buy this, we'll buy that. It's not to say they can't remaster some of these bigger projects or, you know, games that are likely going to sell better. I just think that they just have, it's a timing thing. Like, nobody's saying you can't do a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, but why are you doing it now? You know what I mean? Like, that feels like something you save for the like middle of the PS6 generation, and it actually feels like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Look at how crazy good it looks now. Enough time has went by. It's just weird, man. It's really weird to see, because I understand what Shu's saying. Like, they're always going to do this to get more revenue from their games and squeeze as much out of it as they can. But I just think that as long as Sony continues to remaster games that people are not necessarily asking to be remastered, they're going to get criticism for it. You know, I think that's what's going to happen. You fear that's what we're getting for the rest of the generation because it's cheaper? We might. That's not all we're going to get. Like we said, we're going to get Ghost of Yotei, we're going to get Death Stranding 2 and Wolverine and stuff, but you know, I could see a situation where it's like suddenly, yeah, we're going to get a God of War 2018 remaster. Because, well, we don't really have anything else. Could you imagine that's what Sony announces for the 20th anniversary of God of War? Oh my God. Again, please, chaos. Sony, if you're going to go all in, go all in. I want to see pure chaos. I want to see them just burn it down, man. We got a big surprise for you for the 20th anniversary of God of War, guys. We've been saving this one. God of War 2018 remastered. Days Gone remaster. I mean, dude, I've already talked about this. A Days Gone remaster, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to buy that. Because I want to let Sony know, yes, I want this game. I want it. Bring it back. I want a sequel. Greenlight that sequel. Force Sony Ben to make it. Not going to lie, that's one I would actually support. But I also understand how silly it is. There's no denying it's a little bit silly. It's silly because it's like, it shouldn't have been this way, dude. Rather than looking at a Days Gone remaster, we should be looking at a Days Gone sequel. But sometimes, you know, there's these roadblocks. They'll probably rework the ending. I mean, that would be interesting. Because, yeah, the big thing about Days Gone is it was left on a major cliffhanger. And if they kept that cliffhanger ending in, I would assume, okay, FF16 remastered. What about a God of War fighting game in the vein of Tekken? I mean, I feel like it would confuse everybody. It would be interesting, but I think everybody would be like, what? Shadow of the Colossus prequel. Knack 3. Sony's going to have to come out with Knack 3 for the PlayStation 6. It's the only way, man. Yeah, I saw that, Illegal Monkey. I did. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the Arnold voice that they used, man. It is pretty funny. It wasn't Arnold. But, you know, it was close enough, I guess. It was a little silly. He sounded kind of funny. I mean, I would have been interested in that, dude. I would have been interested in that, but I heard that they're just like kind of dropping support for Mortal Kombat 1. And I'm just like, well, whatever. I'm not going to bother. They have the T1000 as well, which is pretty cool coming out. You hope the PS6 reveal has a major showcase a la E3. Really bombastic. I'm sure they will. You think they should just remaster the PS5? If they're not, dude, if Sony's not careful, that's what people are going to call the PlayStation 6. If they're not careful. They got to be careful. I did see a rumor circulating that apparently there is a new MotorStorm in development. I haven't heard anything, though. Like, I don't even know where that rumor came from. It was just something I saw kind of floating around on Twitter. That would be pretty cool. A new MotorStorm. I just wonder who would make it. Has the Sony PS blog died yet? Not yet. Will I buy the upcoming Xbox? That's going to be a really hard sell for me, man. I mean, probably not. Probably not. Because my assumption is by the time we see this new Xbox releasing, let's say November 2026, my assumption is that by that time, yeah, we're getting all their games on PS5. So there was this report that came out, by the way. We have more things to cover that Shuhei Yoshida said, by the way. But just on a side note here, there was this report. Where is it? Ecstasis says that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, Halo the Master Chief Collection at full price, Diablo 4, the next Call of Duty game. Or actually, he's saying it might be Black Ops 6, but at the very least, the next Call of Duty game, Fallout 4, and Starfield. All of these games are coming to Switch too. So it's like, I mean, I would assume most of them are going to come to PS5 as well, if they're going to be ready for Switch 2. That's the latest batch of rumors regarding Xbox games going to other places. So, I mean, you're asking how Master Chief Collection is $30 on Xbox. How much do you think it'll cost on PS5? According to the rumor from Ecstasis, at least on Switch 2, it's going to be full price. So I'm assuming that it's going to be full price on PlayStation as well. Which, yeah, Microsoft's not stupid, dude. They understand the pop. You think they're going to announce more games coming to PS5 at their Direct? That would be interesting. I am going to stream that. So that would be pretty cool if they did that. But I don't know that I'm necessarily anticipating that's where they're going to do it. I actually think Final Fantasy is going to show up. I think that's kind of what the rumor was, right? What date is the Direct? It's the 23rd. So I think it's Thursday. Let's move on to the next thing that Shuhei Yoshida had to talk about, which was PSVR 2. Not good. He says the recently departed PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida has apologized for how PSVR 2 has not turned into a PS2 situation, where Sony successfully built on its first iteration to release an even more successful product. Speaking on the Kind of Funny Games cast, it appeared Yoshida had very little positivity to share about the headset, laughing when asked what happened to PSVR 2 and suggesting to move the conversation forward. Having moved into the indie space with PlayStation after leaving his position of president of Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios in 2019, Yoshida will likely have had very little, if any at all, impact on the release and first-party games lineup of the VR device. It did not launch until February 2023, more than 3 years after his big change in focus, but Yoshida still felt the need to apologize. "I am sorry I was wrong. PSVR 2 did not become PlayStation 2, he said. When questioned by host Greg Miller as to what happened, Yoshida laughed and responded, "Let's move on with the conversation." So, yikes. I mean, I'm not somebody who's trying to be like a PSVR 2 doomer or anything, but that's not good, man. I don't think there's any way to, I mean, I think what's important to note is that he says, "I'm sorry it didn't become a PS2 situation." I think he's like low key revealing what Sony's expectations were. You know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it almost seems like maybe Sony really thought VR2 was had the chance to really take off. But yeah, I don't think VR in general ever became the big sensation that everybody expected it to be. All these companies expected it to be. So, very unfortunate. Sony's continuing to support it, though. So, we'll see for how long. We'll see what Sony officially does. Something else Yoshida says, speaking in his first interview after departing from PlayStation, the former president of SIE Worldwide Studios for Sony, he tells Kind of Funny Games that one game's sales figures in particular left him surprised. "The one I was a bit surprised about in terms of the number of units sold was the second Horizon game, according to Shuhei Yoshida. He expected the sequel to sell better as it came after an already well-established IP. Oftentimes, the second game does better because there are already millions of fans," he explains. This wasn't the case with Forbidden West. Although Yoshida initially thought it might end up being so, "I love Horizon and the game did well, and I was hoping that the sequel would do even better in terms of sales. The game was bigger and great, but I don't think the second one did as many units as the first one." In 2023, PlayStation reported that the Horizon franchise has sold through more than 32.7 million units worldwide, of which Horizon Forbidden West has sold through over 8.4 million units. That would align nicely with what Yoshida says to Kind of Funny about the sequel's figures, with Zero Dawn having sold over 24.3 million units 2 years ago, at least 15.9 million more than Forbidden West had sold at the time. This is interesting to me. Because he definitely didn't have to say this. Herman Hulst. I feel like Shu secretly doesn't like Herman Hulst. I'm going to be honest. Herman Hulst took his position in 2019. I don't think Shuhei Yoshida likes him. I don't think Shu would ever admit that. I don't think he likes him. Kane Z7, you're saying you can use PSVR 2 on PC, no different than other VR. That is true. And I think it's good that Sony did that. But, whether or not that's going to be the difference maker, I'm thinking it might not be. We'll have to see. We'll have to see, Kane. Chris Brown with a $5 super chat. Thank you. You're saying Meta 3 is closing the gap in graphics. I'm starting to choose Meta 3 versions instead now because I can just use it anywhere and watch movies / Game Pass. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's no chance for PSVR 2 to truly compete with Meta. I think Meta just has too much of the gap's too wide, And what you're saying here, Chris, I think that's how a lot of people kind of look at it. I mean, once I saw that Batman game was not coming to PSVR 2, I was like, holy shit. That sucks. Like, I feel like that's like it's pretty bad for PSVR 2. Like, I feel like PSVR 2 would have needed that game. And I think PSVR 2 players absolutely would have bought that game. And Assassin's Creed VR, yeah. I forgot about that one. Yeah, I mean, that's true. PSVR 2 got Behemoth and Metro VR. I'm not trying, and Alien. I'm not trying to make it sound like they're not getting anything. I'm just saying it's like these are games that really could have helped a lot. And it just seems like Sony wasn't able to do anything about it. But what do you guys think? What do you think about Shuhei Yoshida basically saying that the game he was surprised about? You know what I find interesting about Shuhei Yoshida's comments here is he could have said any game, dude. Like, he could have went back to any game, and he literally was like, yeah, Horizon. I feel like, man, that there's I don't know, man. He wasn't being rude about it. I think he was being genuine, but I just think what's fascinating about his comments is that he's just confirming what a lot of people already thought. You know what I mean? Like, he's confirming a lot of the speculations that were out there. And he's just like, yeah, this game did not sell nearly as good as the first one. And that was surprising to me. And I don't know, man. It's like Herman Hulst better not fuck up. I'm going to be honest. Like, I am trying to be patient with Herman, and I'm trying to understand. But here's what's interesting to think. Shuhei Yoshida was the head of PlayStation Studios until 2019, which means that Shuhei Yoshida was Shuhei Yoshida responsible for Returnal, for the PlayStation 5 launch lineup, God of War Ragnarok, basically any game that got greenlit in 2016, 17, and 18, or maybe even prior to that, because some of these games take 5 to 6 years to make. That's Shuhei Yoshida. I would say that any games we started to see from 2023 going forward, now we're starting to see Herman's. Ghost of Yote, Herman. Intergalactic, Herman. Wolverine, I would say that's also Herman. Death Stranding 2, Herman. Marathon, Herman. Concord, Herman. Fair Games, Herman. Astrobot, Herman, I would assume, actually. Physint, Herman. So it's not all bad, but it's just like, I don't know, man. I get a little bit uneasy when I see the aggressive push that Sony has with the Horizon series. Because I'm kind of like on Shu's side here a little bit, where it's like, yeah, man, I don't get it. I don't have a problem with Horizon, but I don't get why is Sony so desperate to make this the big one? Like this, why does it have to be Horizon? Because I think the market is trying to basically say that we like Horizon, but it's not what you think it is, Sony. It's not. You're saying Elden Ring hurt it? I mean, maybe. I think we'll find the third game is going to give us our answer. Unless somehow they get unlucky, it's like Horizon 3 is coming out the same week as Elden Ring 2. Or Bloodborne. Well, not Bloodborne 2, because that would be Sony, but the next Zelda game, just something like that again. Yeah, and I just get a little bit concerned because it's like, I don't want to find out that Herman has no idea what he's doing. I really don't want to. I'm trying so hard to still give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, surely he could not be promoted if he didn't know what he was doing. He does come from a development studio that worked on Killzone and Horizon, and he's led these projects, and he has development experience. He's a developer. I'm assuming he's a gamer if he's a developer, you know what I mean? Like he knows games. I just don't want to find out like 3 years from now that, oh my God, Herman's literally the worst thing that ever happened to PlayStation outside of Jim Ryan. You know, that would suck. That would suck, where it's just like he's just completely out of touch and has actually no idea what people want. I don't know. I get worried, man. I get worried about the direction that PlayStation's going in. Not that I'm not like a fear monger like a lot of people are, where it's like, it's shit, it's garbage, it's over. We got time. Let's see. Because believe me when I tell you, a lot of this stuff, like Ghost of Yotei will break me, dude. I'm telling you, that game will break me. I am adamantly like, this game cannot fail. How could this game fail? How could it be underwhelming? How could it be bad? And if it is, that's the game that's going to break me, because there's just no way. I could see Death Stranding 2 being not bad, but like Kojima going even crazier in weirdo territory, where it's like, okay, well, Kojima's completely off the rails. That's fine. We'll play the game, we'll enjoy the game, but he's out there, you know? But everything about Death Stranding looks good. Wolverine, I think, is going to be great. I mean, that's another one that would break me. If Wolverine's bad, that's going to break me too. Like, these games need to be good, man. They have to be fucking good, because there's no reason for them not to be. Yeah, bro had a guitar shooting electricity. It will go off the rails. Yeah, in the best possible way. Everything about that Stranding 2 looks good. I don't know, man. I get nervous. Because I know it's maybe unfair. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. But I will just forever see Herman Hulst's legacy as of right now. If he were to leave the company tomorrow, Herman Hulst's legacy for me is going to be, that's the dude that loved Concord. That's the dude that thought Concord was going to be Star Wars. And I desperately need Herman to fix that. I need Herman to bring Fizzent out and make it clear that I'm the reason why this is getting made with Kojima, and this is going to be the next big thing from Kojima, and it's going to be awesome. I need Herman to leave on a high note, man, because, yeah, like, Yotei needs to be phenomenal. Wolverine needs to be phenomenal. Intergalactic, I'm very worried about. I think it's going to do okay, like fine on PlayStation. I think it's going to sell okay or well enough, but dude, the reaction to that game was fucking bad. The reaction to that game was bad, man. And the reaction doesn't have to mean shit. But I worry about Naughty Dog as well. You know, like there are things that underneath the PlayStation brand that I am worried about, because it's like there's some stuff that's looking very shaky. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, how did we get here? I'm not saying it's all fair. The reaction to The Witcher 4 was also bad, but that doesn't mean anything. That's what I mean. It's like, this is why I'm like I'm a bit antsy, because it's like, we're gonna find out, you know, and I'm ready to find out. We have time. There's time. We're not gonna find out tomorrow, or, you know, in the next couple months. Maybe for Ghost of Yotei we could, but it's just like, I just want to know who's going to be right and who's going to be wrong. I want to be right. I want to be right in my assumption that, yeah, I think these games are going to be fucking awesome. Why wouldn't they be? What reason do I have to believe that these games are not going to be great? And I want to be right. I just don't want to, I don't want it to be a situation where it's like, if only you knew, MBG. If only you knew. But I questioned myself, because I remember with Concord, I was like, in January of 2024. We didn't see Concord, and I'm like, yeah, maybe that could be a great game. I don't know. We don't know anything about it, but who knows? Sony has a lot of I literally remember saying over and over again, like, Sony has a lot of confidence in it, so it must be pretty good. And it's like, oh my God. What? Oh, wow. I want to believe. What reason do I have the last 10 years? Well, see, that's kind of a mixed bag, though, you know? Because, like, that goes both ways, I think. The last 10 years, there's plenty of reason to believe that these games will be awesome. The last 10 years, there's also now quite a few reasons to potentially believe that they may not be as good as you think. It depends, you know? I think the chances are higher that they're going to be good, though. I think that some of these games, like Intergalactic, I think some of it's going to be unfair. I'll just say it. I think that some of the hate, for sure, and some of the vitriol that Intergalactic's going to get is likely going to be unfair, where there could be so many great things about that game, but people are going to get hung up on the stupidest shit. And it's going to be like, guys, I think you're losing the plot here. But the same could be potentially be said for Ghost of Yotei, where it's like Ghost of Yotei could do everything right, but there's just going to be a couple aspects of it that for some reason certain groups of people are like, no, this game sucks. It's like, oh, all right. We'll see, though. We'll see. We have time, and God knows Sony can show us a lot more. We'll see. We'll see, man. Let me see if there's anything else I have here. Nope. That pretty much wraps it up. So where are we at? Where are we at? That's actually perfect timing. We are like 3 minutes away from hitting the 2-hour mark. Members Lounge. I don't know if I'm going to be doing one today. If we get 25 members right now, we'll do a Members Lounge. Make it nice and easy. But any rumors on an Eco remake? Not that I've heard, no. Thursday should be a good stream. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't know how that's going to go, but MBG, you have to acknowledge we are in an echo chamber and most users have no clue about the Naughty Dog nonsense. I don't know. I mean, is that true though, Chris? I'm not sure. Like, I do think there are more people than we realize that. I don't know. It's going to be, listen, it's going to be one of these things where it's like, we just have to see what happens, where we could see Intergalactic basically do the same thing that The Last of Us Part 2 did, but maybe like with, you know what, let me walk that back. Intergalactic could come out, if it sells millions of copies and is doing really well, and Sony's celebrating and it's getting amazing review scores, but the only thing bad about it is people are just like, there's a certain group of people just constantly crying about it for no good reason. Like right now, you know, like I feel like that could happen, and it could be like, yeah, oh, wow, turns out that there's just going to always be this group of people now that complain about everything Naughty Dog does. And I say this as somebody who had a lot of complaints about The Last of Us Part 2. And even I think, like, man, guys, like, what exactly are we like losing our minds about? People need to get a grip. I agree with that. I think it's fair. I think it's fine to be skeptical. That's my whole thing, is like people are not being skeptical. They're just being cynical. And that's the difference, is I think skepticism is appropriate for Intergalactic, where I'm not so sure about this. I don't know if I'm sold yet. I don't know if I'm going to like this game. Yeah, that's totally fine, dude. We got a 4-minute trailer that didn't show any gameplay. It's just setting up, the premise and showing a character that maybe you did or didn't like. Totally fine to be skeptical. Totally fine to even be indifferent and be like, yeah, I'm not that interested. What I just can't get behind are the people who they're aggressively jumping to conclusions where I feel like that is not warranted. Just because her head is shaved doesn't mean the game will be bad. I don't understand the correlation there, man. I don't understand the correlation. She's going to have a bad attitude and a shit personality. It's like, how do we even know that? We don't know that yet. You might be right. She could be an insufferable character for all we know, but we only got to see a glimpse. For God's sake, man. And maybe it is bad. Maybe I hate it. What about her statements? What do you mean by that? You mean in the trailer? Like what she said in the trailer? Oh, her Instagram story. Yeah, that sucks, man. I'm not going to lie. That shit makes me not want to buy it. Like that I'm not one of the people she's talking about, but that just makes me want to go, fuck you. Like, you're just as bad. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, grow up. You're the one getting paid here. You're the one making bank. You're the one starring in the game. Take the fucking high road, will you? You got plenty of people defending you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do that shit. I don't like that. But that's where I try to, I'm like trying to separate shit where it's like, is she going to say that in the game? Is that going to be a poster that appears in the game? Is that going to be a theme in the game? Because if the answer to any of those questions are yes, then I'm out, bro. But my assumption is surely not, because that would ruin the game. It's kind of like the whole Ghost of Yotei thing. It's like, oh my God, the woman that they got playing in Ghost of Yotei is a political activist. Just check out her Twitter. It's like, okay, that's whatever. Yeah, I'm not on board with that, but is she going to perform well in the game or not? If Sucker Punch is like, go ahead, you can read your tweet in this section of the game. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, like, we want your input with the writing. Like, why would you do that? What are you talking about? She's not a writer. She's an actress. Her job is to act. Not saying she couldn't be a writer, but not for this game. She will look into the camera and say, I hate you all. These are the types of things that, like, I'm trying to separate them because I don't think it's, I don't find it necessary for these things to be the focal point of whether or not we can enjoy a video game or not. I mean, they're not that serious at the end of the day. Like an actress making fun of incels, internet incels, like, yeah, that's not going to make me, at the end of the day, if I see awesome gameplay and it seems like it's going to have a pretty good story, that's not going to make me be like, well, no, she said this one thing that one time and I'm offended. Like, what the fuck? What kind of baby would I have to be to be like that, But at the same time, if it's like she's doing that and that's how the studio feels and the studio is conveying that through the game itself, that's when I'm like, well, fuck this. You guys lost the plot entirely. That doesn't sound fun at all, So, in my opinion, these things should be separate until we have reason to believe that they are not separate anymore. And I think for Naughty Dog, I guess some people feel as though they're not separate, but I don't know. I don't fully feel that way with Naughty Dog, not yet. But they've definitely tiptoed a bit closer. Sucker Punch, I don't feel that way at all, though. The whole argument is like saying you don't want a doctor with tattoos. Who cares as long as they're good at their job? Yeah, exactly. Now, if you get a doctor with tattoos that's bad at their job, then you got to start questioning some things. You know what I mean? One of the things I'm going to be truly interested in finding out, though, with Intergalactic specifically, also Ghost of Yote, more so with Intergalactic, but Ghost of Yote I'm going to be paying attention to as well. We also have to think about how Sony feels about these things, because Ghost of Tsushima was an incredible success that sold over 10 million units. The most logical thing to do from just a business standpoint is Ghost of Tsushima 2. Flat out. Like logically speaking, just in terms of how do we make the most money, the easiest way. That's the easiest way. Doesn't mean that a different way can't work either. But there's a lot of people who seem to not be on board with Ghost of Yote. And that's what I'm interested in finding out is like, will Ghost of Yote sell worse than Tsushima? Because it definitely shouldn't. It definitely shouldn't. And if it does, Sony's going to notice. And that's going to have to be something that they deal with, because they're going to have to question why that is. And I'm going to question why that is, because if Ghost of Yote is just as good as Tsushima, new characters, new storyline, awesome storyline, interesting characters, great gameplay mechanics, and even more refined gameplay mechanics, and even better open world, and even more refined open world, an even better looking game. Everything should be better about this game. If everything is better about this game and it still, sells worse than Tsushima, I will be confused. And I'm sure Sony would be too. If there are very clearly things that people are pointing out in this game that are objectively worse, in some ways, then I think that's going to be hugely problematic. It all hangs on the writing. I agree. I actually agree with that, yeah. Because I don't think they're going to mess up the gameplay. I think that they have a really good template to follow. I think the story and the characters and this new character, the new protagonist, I think that this new protagonist has a lot to prove, because it's like you have some big shoes to fill here. People liked Jin Sakai. A lot of people wanted Jin Sakai to come back. And he's not. So you're not getting Jin Sakai. You're getting this new character that, people are apparently focusing on what she had to say on Twitter and the actress that plays her. So there's already friction. And I'm just curious to see if the game can overcome it. Because I have a feeling that if Sony begins to notice, guys, we can't help but notice that there's more and more friction building towards our games. And now they're starting to sell worse. Figure it out, or you're done. I'm really curious, because I think that's what people want. You know what I mean? I think that there's a group of people that want Sony to fuck up, or they want these games to fail. So, for example, they want Ghost of Yote to do significantly worse than Ghost of Tsushima, because if that happens, Sony turns to Sucker Punch and says, are you guys idiots? All you had to do is make Ghost of Tsushima 2, and that's what makes us all the money and gets us all the sales. You didn't do that, so now we didn't get all the money and all the sales. Now you're going to be in trouble. Whoever's responsible for it's going to be fired, and now we're going to make Ghost of Tsushima 2. And the same exact thing it's even more intense with Intergalactic, where it's like people want Uncharted 5, with Nathan Drake again, or maybe even I don't know. I don't know if people want an Uncharted with his daughter, starring his daughter, maybe, with his brother and Sully or something. Or they just want something that's not Intergalactic and not The Last of Us and not Uncharted. Maybe they want a new Jak and Daxter. I don't know. People want to see Intergalactic fail So that way Sony will turn to Neil Druckmann and the studio and be like, you guys fucked up. You know, you could have done anything. This is what you did. You fucked up. You're out. And we're putting out an Uncharted 5. Or we're remaking The Last of Us again. I don't know. Now Naughty Dog's going to remake Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. That's what they're going to do. I think people want to see that because, well, people, there's a group of people that just do not like the direction that these studios are going in with their IP and with their games. And I'm not sure that it's fair yet to judge so harshly before we actually see what they turn out to be like. But I do kind of get it because I don't want to see these things get ruined either. I don't. I don't want Ghost of Yotei to be like a mess of like I don't want Ghost of Yotei, by the time it comes out and we play it, people to be talking about the story like, man, that story was kind of shit, like really not that good, not that interesting. Or even worse, like just some parts were just cringe and bad and like, who wrote this game? I don't want that because that would mean that the people who were freaking out about this, they were right. And if they're right, that means shit is so much worse internally at Sony than we could have imagined. And I don't want to believe that because like The Last of Us Part 2. See, that's a tough one though, man, cuz like the thing about The Last of Us Part 2 is a lot of people are on board with that game. And that's why I feel like I can't really use that as an example because there are people who love it. There's a lot of people who love it. There's a lot of people who hate it. And I feel like, okay, that's fine. It could just be that. It's a game that gets a lot of love and a lot of hate. You either love it or you hate it. I'm talking more of like an objective situation where like everybody's universe, I mean like everybody's like, check out these clips of how bad this writing is and how fucking cringe this is, and like stuff like that where it seems like, they pulled a random Redditor or a random Twitter user and was like, can you write this game for us? Something like that, I hope they do it justice. That's all. I hope that they prove me right. I would like to be right. But anyway, guys, I'm just kind of going on a rant now. Shuhei said during the Kind of Funny interview that he played Yotei several times and it's his most anticipated game this year. That's awesome. That's reassuring. Yeah, I mean, that gives me more confidence. I mean, I already had a lot of confidence, but that definitely is good to hear. I'm still hyped for it, man. I want to see more. But guys, that's going to wrap up today's stream. No members lounge today. Just going to keep it a short stream today. I did put a video out earlier if you guys want to go check that out. But I do appreciate you guys tuning in and hanging out with me. I'm going to continue to keep you guys updated. We'll see what else comes out this week. We do have the Xbox Direct that we'll stream and check out, I think, on Thursday. The only other thing I want to ask you to do before you guys head out is please hit that like button. We're just on the cusp of hitting 150 likes. I'd really appreciate that. And I want to give a thank you to everybody who dropped any support today, any direct support. I can only do this because you guys make it possible. You continue to support the channel and the community, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you to everybody who contributes. And also want to make sure I give a shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for the streams. If you guys see him in the comments with the timestamps, please give him a thank you. Show him some love. I know he really appreciates it. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it today. So guys, please enjoy the rest of your Monday. I will catch you guys in the next one. We'll probably be back tomorrow. So all right, guys, that does it. Until next time, take care.